Hi, everybody, and welcome to The Better Show. I'm J.D. Roberto.
And I'm Audrilla. We're so glad that you joined us today. It's Thursday, March 15th.
Can you believe that March is half over?
Plus, better politics. Why has this campaign season seemed like the worst ever, and what we can all do to make it a little better. Join the debate just ahead. Better, we'll be right back.
JD, we're going to go over to you now. We're going to talk a little more politics, right?
We are indeed. The campaign season is in full swing. A lot of people are complaining that it's one of the worst campaigns that they've ever seen. So here to break down the facts and offer some advice on how you, as an individual, can make a change to the system, we've got Dixie Swanson. She is a former Washington insider and the author of the Accidental President Trilogy. And we don't do a lot of politics on the show, but I think what you have to offer, which is a discussion not about partisan politics, but about how we can make the system better, is really important. So thank you for being with us.
Well, it's my pleasure, and thank you so much for inviting me.
What do you think the main complaint people have about this particular primary season? Right now it's all about the Republicans because they're in their nominating process. What do you think is turning people off so much?
I think the fact that 90% of Americans believe that Congress is doing a bad job.
Yeah, the approval rating's stunningly low.
Yes, it is stunningly low, and it speaks to the fact that our system is simply broken. And you can't fix a problem with a broken system. And people talk around it, but in my book, my character, who accidentally becomes president, is an outsider and figures out a way to change the Constitution with some constitutional amendments that then let us fix the system.
So your sense is that to really make an effective change, you would need to come from outside, that the system's not going to fix itself.
It can't. Because, for example, every president since I don't know who has wanted the line item veto.
Right.
It's always been thrown out. It has to be a constitutional amendment.
So the line item veto would give the president the ability to keep a bill intact, to not veto the bill, but to veto a specific part of the bill.
Right.
If somebody added funding for pork bellies to a national defense bill, the president could say no to just that.
That's right. Okay. And currently, the courts can do that, but the president cannot. And so that's one thing that needs to be done. The other thing I think we need to do is I think we need to elect the president and vice president by popular vote, because electoral voting is as antique as the powdered wigs they wore when they wrote the Constitution.
Sure, because our system is set up so that it's not actually, as we saw with President Bush and Al Gore, it's set up by an electoral system. States have a certain number of electorates, and that decides who's president.
But that's inherently unfair and inherently contradicts our American principle of one person, one vote.
Right.
If you're Joe Blow and you win by one vote in Wyoming for president, you get 3 electoral votes.
Right. You get everything that Wyoming has to offer.
But that's just 3.
Okay.
But if Sue Smith wins in California, she gets 55.
You said that one of the biggest problems, and I think a lot of people would agree, is money in politics, the influence of money in politics. What do you think that does to our political process? Well,
the definition of a good politician, at least where I come from, is that once bought, stays bought. And there are some figures out that say we may have $5 billion in special interest money in this campaign. That's why whatever's good for 99% of us will be blocked by the lobbyists for the 1%, because they got so much money.
But isn't Congress supposed to be the lobbyist for us? Like, we have a lobbyist, it's called Congress.
Right, but again, in this book, I heard this idea years ago, and I don't know who said it, and so don't give me credit for it. But this guy said, there should be money coming only from the voters.
Right.
And you can give as much as Congress will allow, up to a maximum, but only to one candidate for whom you can vote.
Oh, okay.
So you can donate to one U.S. representative, yours, or whoever's running for that seat, one U.S. senator, yours, and one presidential ticket. And no other money enters the campaign. No PAC money, no super PAC money, no 527 money. And as a result, guess who Congress is going to be beholden to?
The people.
You.
Theoretically, yeah.
Because you elected them.
Because we're the ones that gave them the money.
We're the ones that give them the money. Now, the special interests need to exist. People have a right to speak. But this takes their ability to take money and bring it to the conversation.
It's all great stuff. Very complicated issue, but Dixie, thank you for bringing it up and for starting a conversation about it. Really pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
The economy, of course, is a huge election issue this year. Coming up, we're going to separate the fact from the fiction when it comes to one of your biggest investments, and that is buying your first home. Welcome back to The Better Show. We asked author and Washington insider Dixie Swanson to hang around so that we could talk a little bit more about politics. I love this subject, and I appreciate you sticking around. What changes would you make to our system? You mentioned during our interview that you thought popular vote was the way to go. But what about the actual elections themselves, the terms that people serve, term limits? What changes would you make to the system to fix it?
I'd make 5 changes.
Okay.
I would have people be elected by the popular vote. That's the first thing. Abolish the Electoral College. I would have a 6-year single term because everybody is looking only 2 years down the line to the next election, and the president starts campaigning the day after he enters office. We have so many problems in this country. He or she needs to be focused strictly on the job at hand.
Wouldn't there be a concern, though, that with a single term and you couldn't run for re-election, that you'll have a lame duck president 24 months into it? Because everyone will go, well, that guy's on his way out, or that girl's on her way out, I'm not listening.
That's a possibility. But do you want that, or do you want a president who's on the job half the time?
Sure, it's the perpetual campaign cycle.
The perpetual campaign cycle. And especially in terms of problem solving, we need to have somebody looking 20 and 30 years down the road, and we don't have anybody.
No, it's true, because you have to be thinking, what will get me elected next, not what's going to be good for my grandkids.
That's right. And so that makes a huge difference.
Okay, what's number 3?
The line item veto,
right?
Which, if the president doesn't, it'll get rid of half the pork at least. And I favor a balanced budget amendment with a pay down of the national debt over 40 to 60 years. When you die, your debts and your assets are toted up.
Right.
And everything is reconciled. Well, countries don't die. So what happens is our debt just keeps rising and rising and rising and rising until, horrible things happen, like we default on our loans.
Right.
And that would cause economic chaos. We're going to have to get rid of the national debt.
What do you think it's going to take for people at home to get involved and make a change politically? Because I think most people feel disempowered. They look at Washington, they look at politics, and they think, there is no way that I, as an individual in my community, can make a difference. So what can they do? Prove them wrong.
Well, the 5th change is to have all of the money for a campaign come only from voters. No PAC money, no super PAC money, no 527 money, no money from anybody except voters. And they can only donate to one candidate for whom they can vote. And that will get that out. So the voter by that time would understand that their money, their vote counts. In the meantime, get really informed. Don't just go with watching those horrible ads on television. Look things up. Look at nonpartisan sites like the League of Women Voters. Get informed, because you're not just voting for yourself, you're voting for your children and your grandchildren. And if you're a woman, you're voting on behalf of all of the women around the world who can't vote.
It's a really good point. Dixie, thank you so much for talking to us about this. It's all really important topics. Don't forget, you can check out Dixie's books, The Accidental Senator, The Accidental President. It's a trilogy. It's got some really good ideas and information in it. Thanks for being with us. We will be right back.